gbogbo ẹ̀yin ọmọ ọ̀dọ́ tá a jọ ń káàkiri ọ̀dọ́jọ́ ni wá ẹ má jẹ́ kí a fi àyè gba Fúlàní lórí ilẹ̀ àwọn bàbá wa ẹ má jẹ́ ká bú ọba mọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ ká bú jòyè mọ́ nígbà tá a la fẹ́ jà fún àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ wa táwa ń kọ́kọ́ ń bú ọba tá à ń bú jòyè èmi náà ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ rí bọ́mọ pẹ́rẹ́ àmì padà ẹ má jẹ́ ká bú àgbààgbà kankan mọ́ ẹ má bolóṣèlú kankan ẹ̀rù kálukú ń bẹ̀rù wọn ò lè sọ̀rọ̀ ọba ò lè sọ ìjòyè lè sọ ẹ jẹ́ ká ronú ẹ má jẹ́ ká bá àwọn bàbá jà mọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ bú wọn mọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ àṣẹ wọn làwọn ará pẹ̀lú wọn àwọn àgbà tó bá jó lóṣèlú tá a bá fẹ́ kọ́ wọn rẹ̀ wá lọ́wọ́ á gbé wọn mọ́ra á gbé wọn mọ́ra ni à ní bú wọn mọ́ ẹ má jẹ́ àṣejẹ̀gbọ́n ẹ má jẹ́ àdàlúrú a lè gba ẹ̀tọ́ wa láì ṣèjẹ̀gbọ́n a lè gba ẹ̀tọ́ wa láì yìnbọn a lè gba ẹ̀tọ́ wa láì dàlúrú gbogbo protest mo ṣe ní ìlú Nàìjíríà mi ò rí ibi tí mo ti ẹnìkan lè sọ pé mo pààyàn tàbí mo jó nǹkan náà tàbí mo bà nǹkan jẹ́ mo lọ písù torí pé olówó lèmi náà tí ò bá sólówó lára ń dì mọ́ gbogbo nǹkan tó lọ́n fún yẹn lọ́lọ́run fún mi mi ṣe tálákà tó dé pé mo dìde fún jà Yorùbá big man ni mi àwọn tó jẹ́ ọ̀rẹ́ mi tó súnmọ́ mi tó ní owó ní kí ni mo wá lọ bẹ̀ pé sọ́wọ́ lè mi mò ń fẹ́ ni kí n sọ yìí tí mo fẹ́ mo ní ìsọ̀rọ̀ owó àní ọ̀rọ̀ ìran mi ni mò ń sọ kí n wọ gbowó kí n gbéra kí n pé mò ń lọ ọ̀dọ̀ ọba àgbowó mò ń lọ ọ̀dọ̀ oníbodè òfin gbowó kí n kójó wọlé kọ́kàn mi balẹ̀ kí n dá wa mọ́tò kí n mọ́ rìn bọ̀ kí Fúlàní mọ́ dá mi dúró títì kí n délé kí bàbá sọ pé kí n gbé tírélà sùn kí n mọ́ gbé lọ àwọn bàbá wo lè lóko mọ́ wọn ò lè lóńdò ẹ jẹ́ ká fọwọ́sowọ́pọ̀ ká ti àwọn bàbá wa lẹ́yìn ká dá security ti wa lẹ̀ ká sọ fún wọn kí wọ́n bá wa fọwọ́ tì í ká lé wọn kó nu oko wa ẹ ṣé mo dúpẹ́ Jésù Olúwa wa.
KOIKIMEDIA, we're bringing the world closer to your doorstep.
KOIKIMEDIA, 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 we bringing the world closer to your doorstep.
KOIKIMEDIA, 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 we bringing the world closer to your doorstep.
Àwọn sálára àgbà yìí dá, àwa ló láṣà àti èdè. Gbígbédè lárugẹ nílẹ̀ Oòduà o, àwa gangan ni bàbá.
KOIKIMEDIA, 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 we bringing the world closer to your doorstep.
They never sabi wetin we carry for her.
But they move closer before they go sabi.
I said they never know wetin we carry for body.
But they move closer before they go sabi.
Ọ̀kín lọ lọ́jà ẹyẹ, kìnìún ló ló lajú.
Ẹyẹ tó dorí kodò bí àdán, ọ̀pẹ̀jẹ̀ lẹ́nu.
Ká ṣiṣẹ́ fún ilẹ̀ bàbá wa, ká ṣiṣẹ́ fún ìlú bàbá wa, ká jùmọ̀ sowọ́pọ̀ ká lè tó dúdú àga.
Odùduwà kò bá lè gbé wá.
Ọmọ Odùduwà ṣègìrì, ẹ dìde fún ẹ̀tọ́ adúláwọ̀, ká lè jọ jùmọ̀ gbé délẹ̀ ìlérí, káwa lè gba ògo ilẹ̀ wa, ká ṣiṣẹ́ ká lè jọ gbàdé, ká lè gbàdé adé adúláwọ̀, àwa ni mọ̀lẹ̀ tí yóò tàn káàkiri.
Ọmọ Odùduwà ni wá.
KOIKIMEDIA, àwa là ń gbé tó lárugẹ.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tí wàá máa ní.
Kásá ẹgbẹ́ polówó ọjà wá kájé bùgbà yín jẹ.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tí wàá máa ní.
À ń gbé tó lárugẹ, à ń gbàsà lárugẹ.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tí wàá máa ní.
News and sports ẹ máa rí gbọ́.
Ètò tó pọ̀jù owó tí wàá máa ní.
Ọmọ Ìjẹ̀bú alárẹ̀ mi ló ní kí n máa ké tantan. KOIKIMEDIA, ọ̀rọ̀ lágbájúmọ̀ mi o, máa bá ṣẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ o. Ọmọ Yorùbá nìyẹn, ọmọ Yorùbá tata o. À ń gbádùn rẹ, ọmọ Ìjẹ̀bú alárẹ̀ mi, ṣẹ́yìn ló máa fi dìbò tẹ̀ mọ́lẹ̀ o. Ẹ̀yin lọ́mọ onígbò máa ń dé máa dé, ẹ̀yin lọ́mọ onígbò máa wọ̀ o. Igbó máa wọ̀ gbàjòjì ò gbọ́dọ̀ wọ̀, àjòjì tó bá wọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ á tẹ̀lé ní ẹbọra. ìgbà tó yìnbó dé o owó náà dẹ́ tún pọ̀ sí o Koiki Media ṣàwa ní bàbá. Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Àdáńtọ́ àtúnpèrègèdè.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Àwa là ń gbé tò lárugẹ jẹ́ ká jọ gbọ́ o.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Àtúnjàfẹ́tọ̀ ilẹ̀ wa fẹ́tọ̀ ilẹ̀ Yorùbá.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Ọmọ Òdùwà ni wá o tọkàntọkàn.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Ikú tí ó ṣe bí lébi òsì àdìmú bàbá iyọ̀.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
We bring you up closer to your doorstep.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Afẹ́fẹ́ tó ń fẹ́ òòdùn kan kí oko lára ni.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Àpèrègèdè Olódùmarè ló fún wa ṣe.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Gbogbo ayé ẹ gbọ́ àwa ní bàbá o.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Ẹ máa bọ̀ wá ẹgbẹ́ polówó ọjà yín wá o.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Òdùdúwà la gbé dání òtítọ́ la gbé dání.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
A kì í sọ̀dálẹ̀ a kì í sódìkẹta.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Àdúró tán a tún pèrègèdè.
Koiki Media àwọn ní bàbá.
Koiki Media we bring you up closer to your doorstep.
Àwọn ní bàbá.
Koiki Media is around.
To give us latest.
Is around o.
Give us latest.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Ẹ mú kalẹ̀ sílẹ̀, ẹ tẹ́tí ẹ gbọ́ ètò tó kojú gbogbo.
ladies and gentlemen,
Ẹ mú kalẹ̀ sílẹ̀, ẹ tẹ́tí ẹ gbọ́ ètò tó kojú gbogbo.
Koiki Media is around.
To give us latest.
Koiki Media.
Koi.
And a very good morning and welcome once again to the live transmission as we continue the campaign, as we appreciate God's of the land, as we say good morning, good afternoon, Mokibuwakwe, Ekaro, and good morning on the Tuesday, the 9th of April 2024. My name is OLAYOMI Koiki, one out of the many Yoruba nationalists that believe that the Yoruba people are much better off to be out of the 1914 amalgamation that was put together by Britain during the colony. The colonialization has been done and completed, and it is now important that we, the Yorubas, completely come out of this fraudulent Lugard amalgamation. As we appreciate those of us that are steady, those of us that have refused to accept the nonsense that was put together during this amalgamation, under the leadership of Professor Adebanji Akitoye, we continue to ask for our right to self-determination under Article 3 that stated and stipulated that indigenous peoples have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status, freely pursue their economic and social and cultural development. Our development is no longer what to be in Nigeria. Many people do ask, why do we want Yoruba nation? Why do we want to be out of the 1914 amalgamation and not stick into the current state of what is known as Nigeria? The 1914 amalgamation is a complete different kettle of whatever you might want to call it. The 1914 amalgamation was something that the West, during the British colony, forced some of our fathers and some of those that lived during that era. That was during the 19th century, just after the Second World War. There's a complete difference between self-determination and the fraudulent amalgamation. So today, as we continue to ask if the United Kingdom were able to leave the European Union after 35 years, for reasons known best to them, it is also important that we, the Yorubas, should be allowed to go out of Nigeria and set up our own government, set up our own constitution, set up a system that works for us. The current 1999 constitution is one of the most fraudulent constitutions, as stated by many of the senior advocates of Nigeria. If you're still one of the Nigerians that believe or have it at the back of your mind that Nigeria will be a great country, I am saying it again today, that Nigeria will not be great. Today is the 9th and not the 8th. The 9th day of the month of April. Once again, today is not the 8th. Today is the 9th and the date will be updated, because it is important that as we continue to highlight reasons why the Yoruba needs to go, the near future will be watching most of these broadcasts and they will be able to find out through the date and the time. So we're going to edit the date as it is not the 8th. It is Tuesday, the 9th of April. And our quest, our right to self-determination will be respected. And let's start with these. As we say all the time, this is a platform that brings you up to date with current state of things happening around the world, as we saw the solar eclipse yesterday, and likewise as we continue to say to many Yoruba people, Tinubu is not bigger than Yoruba people, and Tinubu has just 4 years to manage the affairs of what he has actually signed for as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. President Tinubu will not be able to operate to give you the electricity. He will not be able to operate to give you as much as your expectation. And the reason because it is the fraudulent 1999 Constitution. And do not ask me why it has been amended. You do not amend something that is a fraud. Let's start with Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Lekan Adegoke.
If the Constitution maintains as Section 2 that Nigeria is one indissoluble nation and doesn't provide for means or procedure by which a people or a particular sector of the nation, a federating people, can choose to say at this particular point we want to have a nation of our own, and it doesn't provide for a peaceful means by which this can be guaranteed, there will always be frictions that will be leading to violence, killings, and bloodshed. And to avoid this, it is imperative that we look at that provision of Section 2 that says that Nigeria is one indissoluble, indestructible entity that doesn't make provision for the procedure by which a people can advance the right to self-determination. There have been many occasions where, on so many occasions we hear from the Arewa People's Congress or whatever agitating that yes, if Nigeria cannot work, they want to go on their own. The Biafra agitators are there. We have the Odua nation and what have you. If the Constitution provides for a procedure to determine peacefully whether a people can separate from Nigeria, you see that some of these agitations might be completely quenched. For instance, let me give you one. Tomorrow now, if we provide for referendum or plebiscite, these are political procedures for determining whether a nation or a nation in a country, because I want to take the definition of a nation here to mean the ethnic nationalities, maybe the Yoruba nation, the Igbo nation, the Arewa nation, or Ijo, Ibiobio, and what have you. Now, if a people can be entitled to right to call for plebiscite that can be supervised by international organs like the United Nations and what have you, it can be safely and easily determined that, okay, these people in this particular area as done in 1960, in 1959-60, if my recollection is right, with the people of the southern part of Cameroon who formed part of Nigeria before, but when they decided that no, they wanted to be on their own, then a plebiscite was conducted and they were able to have a separate nation of their own. If we say Nigeria is an indissoluble entity and will not tolerate any agitation by which people can determine whether they want to be on their own, definitely we are only calling for crisis on our own earth. Tomorrow now, if you subject it to plebiscite, that okay, people of the Igbo nation should decide whether they want to be part of Nigeria or they want to have a nation of their own. You might find a situation that the majority may say they prefer to be in Nigeria rather than having a Biafra. And that will silence the people who are agitating. And if people who are agitating are in the majority by virtue of the plebiscite, why not allow such to just take place peacefully so that there is no sense in remaining one single entity by force that may lead to bloodshed and what may even be characterized as genocide, because a situation where that is allowed, then we have descended below the level of humanity. These are some of the provisions. Going to the political level, to some of the political angle that may require some intervention.
We have problems in the land, and the problems, I want to say this, I might be off the cuff, is because of our constitution. Also, Nigeria is not operating any constitution known to honesty, entrenched in group faith, brought about by unanimity of the people, acceptable to federalism, and again, that is also, we also have that problem in the judiciary because of the Nigerian situation. We have a unitary system. That's what we run. Hydra-headed. Don't let us pretend. And I've said it over and over, and I'll continue to say it. And that's unitarism has also crept into the judiciary. Today, the entire Nigerian judiciary is unitarized. The Supreme Court is federal, Federal Court of Appeal, the Court of Appeal is federal, Federal High Court is federal, FCT is federal, National Industrial Court is federal, Customary Court of Appeal of the Federal High Court is federal, Sharia Court of Appeal of the Federal High Court is federal, all jurisdictions. That the Coyote Church of this world, that the Oputas of this world, that the Bailiffs of this world, when they were in their respective high courts, exercised, making the law to be profound, succulent, rich, exciting, they are now vested in the different federal high court or federal courts. We're talking of how to reform the system. There is no justification in a state, in a nation like Nigeria, purporting to practice federalism, where even the Supreme Court should be overburdened with unnecessary jurisdiction in respect of land matters from Yoruba land, respect of divorce, respect of family matters, chieftaincy matters. How do they know? I don't want us to be deceiving ourselves. Assuming I'm even appointed to the Supreme Court today, I'm above the age, but assuming, and I'm sitting there, and you bring a matter on appeal in respect of Kanuri native law and custom, or Igbo native law and custom, or Igbo land tenure system, and I sit there, and I'm writing judgment. I'm a Yoruba man. What do I know about that? Those kind of cases to stop at the state, either Court of Appeal or Supreme Court. Go to the United States of America. Each state has its own Supreme Court. We are running into trouble. We are inching there, and time is not in our favor. And I'm not tickled by what the National Assembly is doing. They are not being fair to themselves. They are not being fair to us. They claim to be amending the Constitution. What are they amending? And I want to repeat it. Do you amend something that is not amendable? When you want to amend the Constitution, by the way, Lati, where do you start? You start from the preamble.
We the people?
Oh yes, they have to amend it. Why are they running away from it? If they cannot amend the preamble, if the preamble is not amendable, then it means the Constitution is not amendable. Come on. They have to start from it. Do you start reading your letter from the back page? Do you? No, they have to start from the preamble. That means the preamble is fake. We the people, who are the we? When did we meet? And why can't we do it? I'm studying the constitutions of the world. And I say this also with every sense of humility. There's no constitution that is near as fake, near as deceitful, near as make-believe in nature and in content as the Constitution, as what we call the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended.
President Tinubu needs to put his best foot forward to govern the country. If he does that, in 4 years, he can turn things around. But there are certain critical things he would need to do. The first thing is to say, what's the Constitution? If, for instance, me and my wife Lillian don't agree in our marriage of 45 years, then we can't do anything. So the first thing that President Tinubu would need to do is to ensure that Nigerians all agree to be one country. You recall that Bola Ige asked those two questions. Do we want to be one? It's not by force. If we want to be one, how? We haven't answered those questions, which is why I told President Akpabio of the Senate that it has taken 23 years to solve the problem of the Constitution. And I urged him, in conjunction with President Tinubu, to resolve the Nigerian constitutional question now by inviting the owners of Nigeria. The owners of Nigeria, mark you, were those who owned Nigeria before Lugard brought his amalgamation in 1914. Call them in. These are the people who own the country, and ask them questions. What do you want to see of the Constitution? Because without a Constitution, we're going nowhere. And no one will doubt the fact that the Constitution bequeathed by the military in 1999 is unsatisfactory. You can't build anything out of a weak foundation. The economic development policy of President Tinubu, the political development policy of President Tinubu, and everything else he wants to do rests on a very solid foundation. So let him immediately resolve that. How can we spend 23 years looking for a foundation for building a house? Does that make sense to anybody? So that's my number one issue. We need to resolve this issue of, do we want to be one? And mark you, the flip side of the question is that we mustn't be one, because Yugoslavia, which was 6 countries under Marshal Tito, when he died, decided to break apart. And today, a lot of them are very strong countries: Macedonia, Croatia, Slovenia, Slovakia. They're all doing well. So there is no sacrosanctity about Nigeria being one country. There's none. I personally would wish for Nigeria to be one country, but we must agree. Now that is the problem. Because we have not agreed, and because the National Assembly has appropriated to itself the all-knowing wisdom of giving us a constitution, that is the weakness. So that's the starting point. President Tinubu needs to...
There is no land called Nigeria. There is no language called Nigeria. There are no people called Nigerians. We are only deceiving ourselves.
We are not Nigerian.
Okay, where is Nigeria? Where is the land called Nigeria? What is the Nigerian language? We are nations that had been forced together to live in one pathetic country. So anybody who goes there today to say pray for Nigeria, that person is just deceiving himself, because the people who want to be that Nigeria had not sat down to agree if they want to be Nigeria.
And we'd love to take you through that route so that many of you can still understand that as much as your love for Nigeria is growing, Nigeria itself is dying quietly. But many Nigerians are not seeing that the future is already dead in a country that was forced together in the fraudulent 1914 amalgamation. The amalgamation expired in 2014, and it is very, very important that many of you start to wake up your mind so that we can decide the future that is far better than what is known as Nigeria. A future where we can build a brand new economy from the scratch with a constitution that works for we the people, not the current constitution under the fraudulent 1999, as we have listened to 3 different senior advocates of Nigeria. So the argument is, how would President Bola Ahmed Tinubu walk around this fraudulent constitution? And as this man 123 says, our team rewrote the law of copyright in the West that would not expire 70 years after the death of the original wealth creator. A Yoruba person revolutionized the intellectual property right as defined. A very good morning as you are joining the program. Please share it and invite your friends and family to come and understand why Nigeria will not work. I know your feelings, your attachment to Nigeria, but it is just too late to work. I say good morning to you all as you're joining. Please bear with us. We might not be mentioning your names as we go into the program, but we would appreciate each and every one of you. There's a lot to cover, as we say this morning. It's coming up to 5:30 a.m. in London, where we are starting this program. What are we talking about again this morning? We still go back to that question: do we want to be one? And if we really want to be one, the question then is, how are we going to be one if the real owner of Nigerians are not being called to decide whether they want to be one? Your politicians do not have the right to force us to remain in Nigeria. They would have to sit with us, the real indigenous owner of the land, and ask whether we still want to be one. And mind you, like the senior advocate of Nigeria, Akpabio, said, and I quote, we don't have to be one. And literally, we are not one. I know the unity that many of you are looking for in Nigeria. I am very sorry to say that unity, you will not find it. Rather, there will be so much, bigotry. There will be hatred. There will be many things that will not give you that unity. There will be marginalization. We will continue to marginalize ourselves because we are not one. We have lived in denial to say that we are one, knowing fully well that those that own Nigeria, the Mayati Allah, disguised as cattle herders, these are criminals that have decided to state it clearly that they will not tolerate any Oduduwa nation, as they are now calling for the arrest of Igboho in one of their articles posted on a press conference just last month. As many Yoruba people are sleeping, we are also calling on the gods of the Yoruba, from the Christian to the Islam, as we prepare for the new moon coming out tomorrow, if I am clear. As we appreciate all the traditional worshippers in Yoruba land, we say self-determination, careless whether you are a Christian, whether you are a Muslim. Self-determination, exactly what it states, wants you to benefit from being a Yoruba man, where you will be respected with your true identity. Our identity is not Nigeria. We are not Nigerians. Nigeria was created, Nigeria. It is the creation. Shout out to my brother Scorpion all the way in Japan. I cite you and I say very good morning Ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí ètò lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí. Once again, Yoruba people have an identity. Identity yẹn ni à ń jà fún kí ó má bàa ní a lot of problem lọ́jọ́ iwájú. Tinubu can no longer be a president after he has served his tenure. Tinubu is not bigger than the Yoruba people. Yoruba is bigger than President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and we will make sure that we continue to negotiate with him as it is done around the world. We will make sure that we come out and demand our right as the Scottish people and the Welsh are doing. We will continue to engage the international community, the United Nations, the African Union, the European countries, and countries that have been part and friends of the Yoruba people in the past. We would speak to those in Cuba, Jamaica, Brazil, as many Yorubas around the world, and give them all the reasons why we are better off as an independent country. The Scottish people are not more than Lagos State, and they want to be out of what is called the Union, forced together, called the Great Kingdom. The Welsh are not more than 5 million, yet they want to stand on their own. One thing many Yoruba people need to understand is that when we have our own independent nation like Japan, we will speak our own language called Yoruba, Èdè Yoruba la máa fi run ìlú yẹn, but we will still have English on the side. If you live in Japan like my brother, Rilwan Scorpion, one of the Yoruba fighter in Japan, I am sure that he was able to live in Japan nítorí pé ó gbọ́ èdè wọn. Kò ní lè gbé níbẹ̀ tí kò bá gbọ́ èdè. Èdè ni wọ́n fi ń communicate ẹni tó ń pè ní ará ìlú. Ìlú tí wọ́n bá ti sọ èdè kan náà, tí wọ́n dẹ̀ ṣe ẹ̀yà kan náà, that is not a country. Nigeria is not a country. It is a confederation that was forced together under the British rule. The British knows that we are not one. Our traditional rulers must now wake up as quickly as possible, because the problem that we are facing presently in the Nigeria today is not just creating havoc. It has also created the kidnapping, the insecurity, and many of our fathers and mothers can no longer return to work. That is why Babawa Oloye Omadeyemo stated clearly that these criminals must be pushed out. When we say criminals and terrorists, we are not literally saying that gbogbo Fulani tó ń gbé pẹ̀lú wa ni a máa flush out. We are talking about any Fulani that lives in the forest and creating those havoc. Tí wọ́n jí yín gbé tó ń gbowó lọ́wọ́ yín. We will not sit back and allow them to do so. We will go into our forest and we will flush them out. We have the right to self-determination. We have the right to defend ourselves. Once again, mo kí bàbá wa Ọjájá II, Kábíyèsí Ọọ̀ni of Ifẹ̀. Mo kí gbogbo àwọn baálẹ̀ Yorùbá láì yọ ẹnìkankan sílẹ̀. Mo kí gbogbo àwọn ládéládé. Ẹ jẹ́ ká kí olóyè lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí látara òyìnlé.
Ọmọ Ìbàràpá lápapọ̀ ẹ jẹ́ a dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ Akíọmọ. Ọmọ Yorùbá lápapọ̀ tilé tó kó ẹ̀mí àbọ̀ ẹ bá ń kọ́mọ Adéyẹmọ. Chief Sunday Adéyẹmọ Ìgbòho, orúkọ ńlá tí ń jámọ̀ láyà bí àrá, orúkọ tó ń dẹrù bo lórúkọ gan. Ọmọ Yorùbá ẹ má sùn o, torí pé bùrà a kò lè fojú kégbodò láyé. Títa ríro lẹ̀dá ń kọlà, wúrà tó máa dán alànà kọjá dandan o. Ọ̀wọ́n irin ní má bẹ̀rẹ̀ wọ̀nà, ẹ̀dá kan ò lè ṣì wá lọ́nà mọ́. Ẹ jẹ́ àfìmọ̀ṣọ̀kan ká lè débi re. Ẹ jẹ́ àjọ gbárùkù ti Sunday Ìgbòho, Ìgbòho ṣá. Ọmọ Ìgbòho mọ̀rẹ́ nílùú Alágbàdo Òde. Ọmọ atapẹ̀tẹ̀ wọnú omi, ọmọ gèdèlè wodò sànyà. Ìsànyà ò rẹ́ràn bàbá yín láàrin ìdí, omi kò sì náà ń kán sí yín lẹ́nu. Ọmọ òkúta mẹ́ta òkè Ìgbòho, ìkan ń ṣe yín ní dábọ̀dàbọ̀, ìkan ní mọ́ rọra. Ìkan tó kù nígbà tí wọ́n ò mọ̀ Ìgbòho mọ̀rẹ́, kí ló dé Ìgbòho mọ̀rẹ́ sí ọmọ òpópó sanran. Ìgbàgede Ìgbòho sùn wọn láláìsí bẹ̀rẹ̀, wọ́n ní kó ní bẹ̀rẹ̀ ó máa kó bẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ. Ẹ̀sìn ò ní bímọ méjì ní Ìgbòho mọ̀rẹ́, bẹ́sìn bá bímọ méjì ní Ìgbòho, á fi kan pọpọ sí. amúkan yòókù bọ sànyà àtúmúyà rẹ̀ tí ò lọ́rọ̀ gbọ́ àfiṣẹrù wálé wàrà mòjé ọmọ onílé ọlà àwọn àjòjì tó ń ṣe ségesège tọ́láwọn ò ní bomi kó sí mu wọ́n láwọn ò ní bomi sànyà wẹ́sẹ̀ ìgbà tójú kò fi rí ńkọ́ gbogbo wọn náà sáré bomi kó sí mu wọ́n sì bomi sànyà wẹ́sẹ̀ ọmọ abẹ́rẹ́ mẹ́ta òde ayé ọ̀kan ṣẹ́ ọ̀kan tẹ̀ ọ̀kan tó kù ní gbogbo ayé tí ránṣọ kiri gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá Sunday Igboho onírèlẹ̀ láéláé torí àbá lásán nìkan ń dá òkúta ò ṣe gbé fún wọn o ìmọ̀ràn lásán ni ti balùwẹ̀ kò pọ́sibú kó dòdò láyé ń bí ó kún díẹ̀ kí tọ́ domi láéláé ìtọ́ mi lè domi Sunday Igboho arógun má ti dí tó ń jà fẹ́tọ̀ Yorùbá ní tilé tó kó.
Abẹ́ bàbá wa President Bola Ahmed Tinubu kó wo tọba Elédùmarè kó wo ti àwọn abiyamọ kó wo ti ìyá tí Àdògán fi sílẹ̀ láyé nígbà tí Buhari wọlé tó lọ pa sínú ilé pẹ̀lú àwọn tí wọ́n kó lọ kó wo ti àwọn ọmọ Alhaji Fatai kó bá wa rọ àwọn DSS gbogbo ibi tí àwọn òkú méjèèjì bá wà kó wọlá oṣù tí gbogbo wọn tí wọ́n ti fi pe Ọlọ́run tí wọ́n ń pè kó wọlá inú Ramadan tí a wà yìí kó jọ̀ọ́ kó bá wa gbé òkú Àdògán síta àti Alhaji Fatai kí a lè ní closure on that. A máa gba Yorùbá nation whether Tinubu likes it or not. Àmọ́ kó sì wo ti abiyamọ kó bá wa gbé òkú Àdògán síta. Mo kí brother mi lẹ́ẹ̀kan sí Real One Scorpion, the Yoruba fighter in Japan. À ń bẹ̀ wọ́n ní a ní agbára láti bá ìjọba jà. A ní gbogbo ohun tí ìjọba ní àmọ́ ìtaní ni pé ẹnu ta fi ń sọ̀rọ̀ yìí a fi túra wa sílẹ̀ láìpẹ́ láì jìnnà. Mo wá ń rọ President Bola Tinubu kó ní kó review fáìlì yìí àìtẹ́ tí béèrè fún owó tí wọ́n fi bà ilé olóyè Ìgbòho jẹ́ àmọ́ òkú tá à ń béèrè fún yìí very very important that these bodies are returned back to the families so that kí a lè tẹ́ wọn sí afẹ́fẹ́ rẹ̀. Ọba Elédùmarè kó wọlá oṣù àlùbáríkà mùsùlùmí làwọn méjèèjì nígbà tí wọ́n wọlé kò ń ṣe pé wọ́n bá ìbọn lọ́wọ́ àwọn méjèèjì. Business partner ní Àdògán jẹ́ sí bàbá wa olóyè Ìgbòho ọ̀rẹ́ tímọ́tímọ́ ni. Alhaji Fatai àgbọ́n ni wọ́n jẹ́ sí olóyè wọ́n gbé mọ́tò wá láti ìlú Ìgbòho láti wá fi sọ fún bàbá wa olóyè pé ìtọ́lọ́hún ṣe fáwọn nílé tí wọ́n mọ̀ pé ọlọ́jọ́ máa dé ní July 1st 2021 ọjọ́ burúkú tí a ní gbàgbé nínú history ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. As we say all the time, these bodies are still with the federal government of Nigeria. And the current federal government means that it is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that is in charge. We hope that those that are close to him will tell him to do whatever he can, that these bodies have not committed any crime than just living in a residential home where DSS wanted to assassinate Dr. Chief Sunday Igboho on the 1st of July 2021. Once again, a very good morning and welcome into the conversation. If you're new to the platform, please be mindful. I read your comment. We are talking about the Yoruba people that have been in existence for thousands of years before the English decided to falsify themselves into an expedition where they were moving from one African countries or the other, where they decided that Africa belongs to them, where borders were created for their own selfish interest. Many of you might not know, but according to these, since 1914 by Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa in 1948, just after the Second Civil War, the British government has been trying to make Nigeria into one country. That indicates that Kunshawa Lafe Fosarawa into Nigeria. It is the British government that is forcing us to remain in one entity called Nigeria. But the Nigerian people, ìyẹn àwọn ẹ̀yà tó wà nínú Nigeria, themselves are historically different. Ó ní bí a ṣe ń kọlà nílẹ̀ Yorùbá, ó ní bí a ṣe ń ṣe ìkómọ nílẹ̀ Yorùbá. Bíyàn bá bímọ lénìí, a ti mọ̀ pé ní ọjọ́ mẹ́jọ wọ́n gbọ́dọ̀ ṣe ìkómọ yẹn. Ó ní bí a ṣe ń ṣe ìgbéyàwó tí ó yàtọ̀ sí tàwọn ọmọ Ìgbò àti ti àwọn Haúsá. Culture tiwọn ó yàtọ̀ sí tiwa. Èdè tá à ń sọ kò ń ṣèdè kan náà pẹ̀lú English. English is not our language. Yorùbá ni èdè tiwa tí Elédùmarè tó gbélé wa lọ́wọ́. Àmọ́ Britain want us to remain in one entity called Nigeria. But many Nigerians say we should leave that historical background, the historical differences, and these religious beliefs where àwọn Fulani àtàwọn Mala, they are controlling the north with Sharia. But àwa ń lo secular nísàlẹ̀. Tó bá ń ta alcohol in north, it will be destroyed because it is not allowed. Owó jù sí òfin tiwọn lọ́hùn. Nigeria is already divided along that line, but ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ Nigerians do not want to believe and accept that the Sharia used in the north is not what Sanwo-Olu is using to operate the houses that are living in Lagos State. In the north, only bó ṣe lè ṣe, you will not be able to use a pork business next to the mosque in the north. It will be classified as haram. But in the southwest, we love our pork. It is part of a meal that people eat, just like báwọn náà ṣe ń ta màálù fún wa. But yet, these businesses are confined in a particular location where they will then end up paying tax. But we have now seen that many of those that have been massacred and killed is because they are asking that why tí ẹ̀yin dá màálù tẹ́ ẹ san tax, tí ẹ move it from one point to the other, and eventually have used that to destroy other people's businesses. The United Nations have been giving this information under the YSDM. The YSDM has done enough of report on all these atrocities that we have them in large quantity where Boko Haram terrorists continue to operate with impunity. Ta Abubakar Tafawa Balewa wrote in 1948, since 1914, the British government has been trying to make Nigeria into one country. But the Nigerian people themselves, with about 250 ethnic groups, 350 languages, are historically different in their backgrounds, in their religious beliefs and customs, and do not show themselves any sign of willingness to unite. And for Sarawa, sínú kan tí kò possible, it will explode. It will be civil war. I am not in doubt about that. It will be worse more than Sudan. Tikini Ibalo explode if we do not manage it carefully and allow the dissolution of Nigeria to happen in a way that everybody will be satisfied. If it becomes bloody, all you Yoruba politicians will never be forgiven in the history to come and the history that we have today. In Toba Timu, Nigeria will go into that explosion. Gbogbo àwọn tí wọ́n jẹ́ politician ilẹ̀ Yorùbá from 1999 till when this would happen, tó bá ti kú, your family will take your responsibility. Ẹ̀yin tẹ́ jẹ́ family wọn tí à ń sọ fún nísìn, ẹ̀yin la máa hold responsible tí Nigeria bá lọ sínú civil war, because à ń pe àwọn bàbá yín, à ń pe àwọn aunties yín, àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ yín, àwọn colleagues yín. We have all the list of every Yoruba politicians from 1999 till when Nigeria will explode. We pray that it doesn't explode. But if it does, that there will be people that will die, we will hold you all responsible. Èyí tó bá ti kú nínú yín, àwọn family yín must stand trial, because we are stating this now. In Yugoslavia, the same thing occurred when Slobodan Milosevic was told, warned, that Yugoslavia is due to be broken into different countries. Nítorí pé ethnic cleansing was going on. Many of you, because you do not want to understand, Buhari killed many Igbo people. Nítorí nǹkan táwọn Igbo náà ti ṣe fún wọn ní the other time. There is ethnic cleansing that has went into Nigeria, just like over 5 million Igbos were massacred in a civil war that lasted for 3 years. If Nigeria explode, it will be more than 3 years before it goes back to normality, and there will be nothing called Nigeria as at the time. Let us listen to ourselves. It is not yet bullet for bullet. It is not yet AK-47 for AK-47. It is not yet RPG. There is a room for dialogue. The creation of the fraudulent 1914 amalgamation is something that UK made possible. They were very powerful during the colony. During that period, UK took advantage of using weapon, violence, to kill many people in Africa. Millions of Africa were transported on a slave ship to Europe, America, for a purpose, and that purpose was the creation of their own wealth. They actually took advantage of people that refused to be left alone, moved them from Badagry, where they call it the point of no return. Many of you should go and visit it. I have the privilege to visit the Liverpool Slave Museum. The Slave Museum is something that when you visit, you would understand the impact of what transpired during the slave trade. And that museum is still there with so many of my pictures that I took. Shut up. It is important that you know that the creation of Nigeria was a big empire. Britain colonized flags then read, and as they were getting their independence, Nigeria never got independent in 1960. Britain literally handed over Nigeria to the northern part of Nigeria, and this is what they created. These are monsters. As I open their sound, you can hear them speaking in Fulani, operating without anybody cross-checking them. Let's listen to them as they continue to operate till 2024.
If you don't allow we Biafrans to go, that zoological republic called Nigeria will be a worse place than Somalia, and today it is happening. And if you have not applied for your Somalian visa, please try and do so. Should I say Somali visa? Try and do so as quickly as possible, because the zoo is on the path of destruction, and there is nothing man can do to reverse it. Mark today's date and what I'm telling you. Nigeria will be destroyed beyond human comprehension. If you don't allow we Biafrans to go, that zoological republic called Nigeria will be a worse place than Somalia, and today it is happening. And if you have not applied for your Somalian visa, please try and do so. Should I say Somali visa? Try and do so as quickly as possible, because the zoo is on the path of destruction, and there is nothing man can do to reverse it. Mark today's date and what I'm telling you. Nigeria will be destroyed beyond human comprehension.
Impediment to Yoruba development is the impediment to Odua development. Without Nigeria, we won't be where we are. 1962, we were far ahead of South Korea and North Korea. We were far ahead of China even. We had television before France. We had radio before South Africa. Now look at where we are today. I think it's a shame that even any Yoruba man can be talking about restructuring at this point in time. What are we restructuring? This country that is already shot to pieces? I don't think that's what we want. But they are always talking about giving Nigeria a chance. The patience of Yoruba with Nigeria has come to an end. Impediment to Yoruba development is the impediment to Odua development. Without Nigeria, we won't be where we are. 1962, we were far ahead of South Korea and North Korea. We were far ahead of China even. We had television before France. We had radio before South Africa. Now look at where we are today. I think it's a shame that even any Yoruba man can be talking about restructuring at this point in time. What are we restructuring? This country that is already shot to pieces? I don't think that's what we want. But they are always talking about giving Nigeria a chance. The patience of Yoruba with Nigeria has come to an end.
Every one of us must rise up. The armed forces are not neutral. They collude. They collude. They collude with the armed bandits that kill people, kill Nigerians. They facilitate their movements. They cover them. If you are depending on the armed forces to stop the killings, you will all die one by one.
When this collapse comes, and it's going to come, we in the UK are going to need to have some serious reflection on mistakes that have been made, and especially our foreign policy in history. And we're going to have to rely on these nations that we've been stealing from for years to deal with us, because we need them. We're not like Russia. We're not self-sufficient. Russia has its own oil, its own food, it doesn't have to import anything. It can survive without the world. We, a tiny little island, do not have that luxury. We need to import. That's why we've stolen so much shit in the history. So what happens, do you think, in the next decade as African countries are rising and getting more powerful? And the Western countries that had them under their heel for so long, like the UK where I live, are on the way down and their economies are collapsing. What help do you think we're going to get from those countries that are becoming more powerful? How do you think that the Africans are going to look towards the English with regards to trade deals and buying their uranium off them if we need to? They're not going to look too kindly, are they? Especially if there's absolutely no apologies whatsoever. And as far as I can tell, this country doesn't apologise for jack shit. And the reason it doesn't apologise is because if it apologised for the stuff that it's done, it'd have to start giving back all of the stuff that it's stolen. I've spent hours inside the British Museum. That place is it's a treasure trove. It's incredible. And we're going to have to, in the UK, in the West, really start looking at our place in the world and really start looking as to whether we really do value the things that we say we do. I saw somebody earlier saying, you know, this is what the West do. They just play pretend. It's no wonder the West now accept a man being a woman if he just identifies as one, because we in the UK have been identifying as a nation that is on the side of law and order. A nation that values free speech as it's censoring everybody. A nation that values freedom of the press and is a shining light and a beacon for freedom of the press throughout the world, whilst it's literally torturing the best journalists the world has ever seen in its capital. We say we are these things. Our government says them all the time. The diplomats are like that. But it's just all hot air. Nothing we do as a country backs up what these people are saying the country is. Nothing. I love my country, and that's what I want my country to turn into, to be. I think it's the most patriotic thing a person can do. But when I talk about these things, people call me a Putin puppet. They've been propagandized to such a degree. They don't know their allies when they meet them. And we've got some serious apologising to do in this country. To all of these nations that we have stolen from, to all of these nations whose leaders we've helped assassinate and overthrow, all of these coups that we've done around the world in countries just because we didn't like what they did. So we killed them and we overthrew them and we put in a dictator who created a secret service and was just brutal to the people in that country. We didn't care, as long as we carried on getting the oil. We're meant to be a country that cares about these things. It cares about truth and honesty and justice. This country prides itself on the UK justice system. Well, there's no greater injustice in this world right now than the imprisonment of Julian Assange, and we're the ones doing it in the UK. And to all those people in Africa, rise up. I'm in the West and I'm fighting for you. And I tell you, we really are. The people in the country, the people in the UK, the people in this chat in the UK who know the truth, we're on your side. We want our country to be the things that it says it is, and it's clearly not. And I really do wish to see the rise of Africa in my lifetime. I would love to see it. And we're seeing at the moment the rise of Russia and China. I'd love Africa to go with that as well.
Remember that your support is well needed. Thank you so much for those of you that have been joining. Remember that this voluntary contribution, it allows us to be able to do more on this media organization. So if you're one of those that have not in the past, or if you have done it in the past and you're probably thinking how you want to support, these are all the details on the screen one more time. Let's take us back now to Liverpool. This was about 2 years ago when I visited the Liverpool Slave Museum. A very good morning to you all. Pele 1498 wrote on Instagram, begging politicians, we are literally massaging their ego. We have to force them. He also wrote, Tinubu is working with the Fulanis. Tinubu never promised anything, rather he said he is building on Buhari legacy. Also, Mrs. Sarah Maffa said, and I quote on the YouTube, the British have caused too much chaos in Nigeria. By God's grace, Nigeria is rushing towards a breakup, like it or not. Totally agree on holding the traitors amongst us accountable. Just Raising says, and I quote, keep up the good work. Aziz Rahim on Facebook, big brother Koiki, keep up the good work. May God bless you. I'll be picking some of your comments as we go into the program, but let's come back. And while we were listening to all that, let's go and find the meaning of this word, plebiscite. Plebiscite is a vote by the people of an entire country, the Yorubas, the Igbos, the Ishakiris, the Edido, the whatever ethnic that Britain has forced to live together. According to one of the lawyers says, do we now need to ask them whether they want to live together in a one country called Nigeria? Rather, the politicians are talking about election every 4 years without asking the real question whether we still want to remain a one entity. I'll remind you that there is a slave museum in Africa, or we can call it Room 25, where our stolen artifacts have been put in there for people around the world to come and visit, which is not free. We can also say that the National Museum in Liverpool, as you can see, this is also a slave museum. When I went in there in Liverpool, Royal Albert Dock, I paid to get in just to go and see how our forefathers were moved in big ships, covered up, killed, massacred. And today, many Yoruba people, Tambasoro, rather than waking their minds out of the contraction slave trade, they are literally saying to me to get out because they want to be slave, because slave is what they believe in. Transatlantic slavery collection. The object in this collection are linked directly to the history of transatlantic slave. The British Museum is full of so many stolen African artifacts. From the Benin artifacts, the Africa galleries reveal the extraordinary, the other cultural. Nigeria does not have a culture, neither does it have a language. Kò ní èdè, kò dẹ̀ ní ilẹ̀. Artistic, àwa ìran Yorùbá, we are artistic. The Hausa artistic, the Biafra artistic, all the 250 ethnic groups are all artistic. The historical diversity, many Yoruba people want us to throw away our historical diversity and save Nigeria. And the complexity of the continent represent collection. It is nothing called complexity. We were living our life, we were well advanced, we were well developed until the Portuguese exploration and the all other Europeans decided to jump into that entity called Africa and stole shit out of it, took out a lot. And this is why we will continue to appreciate Professor Adebanji Akitoye, an historian that made it clear that the Yoruba people have the noble path to the noble cause. We appreciate the late legend Oluwole that fought to give us part of the education system that has now been destroyed. Let's first read about plebiscite. Plebiscite is a vote by the people of an entire country called Nigeria or district to decide on some issues. What is the issue that we are talking today? I am not talking about APC issue or manifesto or the 16 years of the destruction of the PDP. I am not talking about the obedient movement. I am literally not talking about the Showore revolution. I am talking about a particular issue whether the Yorubas, the Igbos, the Hausas, and the rest wants to remain one Nigeria. The politicians are running away from the word plebiscite. Plebiscite a vote by the people of an entire country or district to decide on the burning issues, such as a choice of a ruler or government. Option for independent. I want us to take note for that. A plebiscite gives you the option for independent. And what is the meaning of independent? Many of you might argue that we have an independent, but I will say clearly that we don't have an independent. It was a union forced together, given by British during that period to the north to ride over the rest of us. Independence. Nigeria was never independent. When we have a true independent, it will reflect we the people, a nation, a country or state. Nigeria is not a nation because there's multiple languages spoken in Nigeria. Èdè tí mo fi ń sọ̀rọ̀ yìí ni èdè Yorùbá. The moment I go back into that Queen English that you all listen to, it literally means that I am no longer a Yoruba man. I am now speaking English. But when tí bá ti sọ Yorùbá, èdè yẹn ni wọ́n fi communicate pé ará ìlú ọmọ Yorùbá ni mí. When you go to Japan, you go to Germany. I had a family friend that just came back from France over the weekend, and I'm not making this up, okay? She literally told me that while she was in France, she was struggling to communicate with them because they were not ready to speak in English. Not that we were Igbo, but English is not their language. Why then are we forcing ourselves to remain in one Nigeria when can we establish our own true independence called the Yoruba country, the Oduduwa Republic, the United Kingdom of Yoruba, whatever name we decided to call it? But àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá ní no, we will work with what we have right now and we will protect it, we will save it. You will sink, and I'm not making this up, you will sink inside Nigeria just as the Titanic sank so many years ago. The Titanic never rose up again until date, even though they've tried to replicate, or even there's a new replica of a Titanic coming out very soon that I'm aware of. They're building a particular one right now. But you remember the submersible. The submersible is a machine that wanted to go and visit the Titanic. What was the end of it? And it all created àtàwọn ọ̀rẹ́ tó kó lọ síbẹ̀. It cost them about $500,000 láti kọ́ fi lọ wo Titanic. Ìwọ tó ní Nàìjíríà ò ní pín, mo bẹ̀ Elédùmarè, mo sọ pé lórúkọ Jésù Kristi, lórúkọ Ànábì Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam nínú oṣù àlùbáríkà yìí, Ọlọ́run ní jẹ́ kó sink pẹ̀lú Nàìjíríà. Ìwọ tí ó fẹ́ save Nigeria, you will sink with it. And I know what I'm talking about. I am not making this up. People wanted to visit. What in Losibe Teleri? Tí wọ́n ní problem. Just like bí àwa náà tó jẹ́ diaspora tó ń lọ Nigeria, because ìwọ ní access láti wọlé kó jáde kó lọ ṣe 3 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, 6 months kó kúrò. Ìwọ tó wà nínú ẹ̀ kò ń ṣe pé orí ṣe nínú ẹ̀, but o kò love pé kó ṣàjẹ́ Nigeria torí àyè ń já òun tó máa ṣẹlẹ̀ lọ́jọ́ iwájú. Kò sí kankan tó máa ṣẹlẹ̀, ọ̀run ya bọ̀ ni. The world is not holding back on us. You will sink. Nígbà tó máa dé sometime last year, there was a news. Tẹ́ ẹ̀ mọ̀ gbà táwọn eléyìí lọ. All we know that they traveled down. Bodies wọn nìkan lọ rí. More debris and human remains from the imploded Titanic sub has now been recovered. We pray for their souls, just like we pray for the souls of many innocent Nigerians that have died because of the negligence of a shithole country that you are trying to save. The US Coast Guard, everybody wanted to save the submersible. But do you know what happened? 5 people already died. And we can only pray for their soul. Human bodies at a party submissible nìkan lórí nísìn. If you're one of those that is saying you don't care, let me just continue to live my life in Nigeria, I understand. You can live your life, but you can get caught up. I am not making this up. This family got caught up not because of their fault, because there was a country that she was working with, that she's a lawyer. Maybe some of you have forgotten her. She was a lawyer practicing law in Nigeria. She left a very great family. As I speak to us today, life has literally moved on. She was not just killed by this evil monster. Lagos lawyer Bolanle Rahim, shot dead by the policeman, has now died of injuries to multiple organs and lungs, according to pathologists told the court. We pray for the family. It is not going to be easy for them to forgive Nigeria. Don't wait until Nigeria catch up with your own family. After a death, many people have died. Lagos lawyer Bolanle Rahim, the picture of the woman which also have a twin baby pregnant with her. She did not just die, she took away 2 beautiful lives as well. These are the blood on Nigeria. I am not doing this because she's a Yoruba. I will take you to Dr. Chinelo. Dr. Chinelo died in Nigeria during the Kaduna train attack, even though some of you joked with her while she was dying on the train. She's an Igbo of origin, but she lives somewhere in Kaduna practicing a doctor, whatever doctor she was practicing. She was just about 72 hours to travel to Canada from what we were told. She probably might not agree with me asking the breakup of Nigeria, either as a Biafra or Yoruba, but Dr. Chinelo body was lying flat right inside when the train that she was traveling with in sometime around March if I'm right. Yes, sometime around March. This article was written April 12, 2022. I am not making this up. Many Hausa people, innocent, have died. I might not know their name, but at least we can talk about, is she Rebecca? Please remind me on the comment section quickly. Rebecca was killed in Sokoto, lynched to death. She was literally lynched. I guess she's Rebecca something. Let's see. Deborah was lynched to death. I'm sure some of you remember her. Deborah Yakubu is an Hausa Christian that died because her views were completely different. Till date, these are the men that are Fulani terrorists, even proud by showing us the matches Ishano at the petrol Todalelori. She was asking for her life. She was pleading with the gods of the Islam. They refused to accept because her views on the WhatsApp chat was different from the view of the lunatic Muslims. And I'm not talking about all the Muslims, but we're talking about the fanatics one that you want us to live together. I know your love for Nigeria, but I am now pleading with the Yoruba people, the Igbos, the Hausas, the Nigerians that still want to keep Nigeria. We can still have cordial relationship. We can still be friends. We can still marry. We can still do businesses, but away from the enclave called Nigeria. I have given us at least 3 of the major ethnic groups in Nigeria. All died. It was Jesus' WhatsApp testimony of Nigerian students that allegedly anger these terrorists, this monster. Let's read this before we go to the others. Sokoto, 17th of May, 2022, just about 2 years ago. A WhatsApp comment in which Deborah Yakubu, the name automatically told us that she is from the origin of the north, but a Christian, testified that Jesus Christ had helped her to perform well in her examination. I don't think that was too much, but yet she was killed in a country that many of you still want us to keep together. She said that Jesus Christ helped her to perform well in her examination. It's said to have hiked her killers who found the mention of Jesus in the group offensive. How many of them are living with us quietly and they are just going to attack when you mention Jesus even next to your home? As some of you employ them to be some of your guards, the servant, the drivers, or those that are sleeper cells that will eventually activate. And when you say to me that it is not going to happen in Jesus' name, I understand, but even the word Jesus' name will be a reason why they will kill you, because these criminals, these terrorists do not like the word Jesus Christ. They do not even believe in the Islam that the Southwest believe, because for them, we are not true Muslims. We are called kafir, the devils, because we love our own ways of life. We want to have our women dressed in a way that we love it. We do not want to be as Saudi Arabia. But these criminals have an hidden agenda. That hidden agenda is still there. You might say to me, it is going to go away. I'm telling you, it is just kick-starting. And this is why we will continue to pray for the soul of this man. Let's listen.
Which is important, Dr. Obadiah. Do you think the government is unwilling or unable to protect the people of Southern Kaduna?
In fact, it is not only unable, it is unwilling, and we have good reason to feel that they are part and parcel of the killers. Let me make some revelations to you.
That's a very big allegation, Dr. Obadiah. The government is part and parcel of the killers.
Yes.
That's big.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. How will the government just say, oh, it is revenge killing and so on? Then you leave it there. Oh, because it is revenge killing and so on and so forth. The body language of this administration, the body language of the state government shows clearly that they have a hand in the killings. No doubt about it. Because, you see, General Abacha, and people don't give him his due. Do you think you would have tolerated such nonsense? And let me make some revelations, because some of us also have our own intelligence networks.
Okay.
Have met with some of the bandits. We have met with some of their high commanders. One or two who have repented. They have sat down with us, not once, not twice. They told us that one of the northern governors is the commander of Boko Haram in Nigeria. Boko Haram and the bandits are one and the same thing. They have a sophisticated network. During this lockdown, their planes were moving up and down as though there was no lockdown. Moving ammunitions, moving logistics, moving money, and distributing them in different parts of the country. They are already in the south, in the rainforest of the south. They are everywhere. They told us that when they finish these rural killings, they will move to phase 2. The phase 2 is they will go into the urban cities, going from house to house, killing prominent people. I can tell you, this is the game plan. By 2022, they want to start a civil war in Nigeria.
Many Nigerians say that there will never be a civil war, but quietly in our community, Deborah just testified that Jesus Christ had helped her to perform well in her examination. She hasn't called anybody any name. She has just literally said it is Jesus Christ. But in that group, there were fundamentalist criminals, terrorists, ISWAP, Boko Haram, that many of you think that they are students. They were living with them. Good morning, Mrs. Sarah Sango. Good morning, Mr. Olanrewaju. And I haven't heard from you for a while. And I hope Elijah is fine. Shout out to you all, Ganyolo Yede, those of you that are listening to me quietly on the Twitter space. We are not live on the Mixed LR this morning. Mukibubua, please share the program. Please share the program. At least you don't have to pay for me on that. It is free. All you need to do is click the button and just share it into that group. The same way many of you forward so many things that sometimes might be very, very irrelevant. Let's just take this as well, that it's irrelevant, but you are going to share it. Many of us have different groups. Even if it's going to upset them, just go and drop it in the group. Maybe somebody might also be saved. Because if Deborah have refused not to have mentioned Jesus in that WhatsApp group, she might still be alive. But she literally mentioned Jesus Christ and she ended up with a life. We could probably save a life, or we might also save a life because she was attacked on a train attack. Family of the Nigerian doctor that was killed by terrorists announces burial arrangement. Chinelo Magafu was a 29 years old. Do you see why I say that many Nigerians will not survive up to what the life expectancy has been said so many times on this platform? The life expectancy of Nigerians, according to the World Health Organization, you will not live up to 53 years old as of 2021. The GDP per capita, the fatality rate is 5 to 24 per birth per woman. The Kenya, if you live in Kenya, you are more likely to live longer at 61. Nigeria is just below Chad. But if you live in America with their obesity, with all the junk food that they eat, they will live up to 76. If you live in Japan, that has literally nothing up to what the Yoruba people have, you will live up to 84 years old and be very strong and die peacefully. I pray many of us live a long life. But in reality, I don't know the age of my sister, and she has actually died now But I'm sure if we go and find out, she's probably not 52 years old. She was killed. Dr. Williams Oluwole Olatunde, a Nigerian pathologist and a forensic expert, has talked about the death of Bolanle Rahim. He said that Bolanle Rahim, the pregnant lawyer with twins, who was killed last Christmas Day, died as a result of injuries to multiple organs and lungs. The question is, why would a police officer discharge the same weapon that Bolanle Rahim pays the Lagos state and the federal government through a business as a lawyer in tax to the federal government? Yet, the police officer that is not to be killing innocent people end up discharge a weapon. You can see that these are people that have nothing to do with Yoruba Nation campaign or Biafra, but yet they were all caught up in these killings. And the whole reason is that killing has been going on for a very long time, as we have told you before. Let's go back again to Liverpool National Slave Museum. If you live in UK, after a while, please pay a visit to this museum. I did, and I have a lot of evidence. I visited that 2 years ago. Many of you don't watch this time. Even looking at this, it stated there that 1791, there was an Haitian revolution to the first black independent republic. Haiti is the same country that has exploded today called Haiti. They had their own revolution, as it stated in 1771. You can see that I was able to capture that in this video. If you look under there, 1791, and right there it says the same thing under the Wikipedia. The revolt began on 22nd of August 1791, and it ended in 1804 with the former colony independent. It involved the Black, the Gaulois, French, Spanish, British, and Polish, and America. The Haitian Revolution was a successful insurrection by self-liberty slaves against French colonial rule. In Saint Dominique, now the sovereign state of Haiti, the same Haiti today has now been turned upside down because of the selfish interest of the West that keeps them below par. Even though they rose in 1791, which I was able to capture from the museum of the National Museum in Liverpool. You can see, and you will see many of my images on social media. I am here to tell you, you will not survive in Nigeria for a very long time. Let us pull it down. Let us ask our politicians that we need now to ask under plebiscite, a vote by the people. I am not talking about an election voting system anymore of 4 years. Ẹ jẹ́ ká béèrè lọ́wọ́ àwọn olóṣèlú wa, àwọn tó ń darí wa. I know many of you love them. I don't have any problem with that. But one day you will die. And I'm not saying that because I want you to die, but you will die in the hands of either the terrorist, you will die on the hands of individuals that are disguised as students. They are living with you, you are living with them. You will get caught up. You will mention Jesus Christ and you will be burnt to death. You would also get caught up in the life that many of you want. You will not get that life. Bolanle Rahim never knew that her end was coming when they went to buy pizza, from what I was told. She's wealthy up to the extent. Whether she's a millionaire, I don't know. But she was a middle class that lived her life peacefully according to the law of Nigeria. But she was killed when the largest shattered bullet fragment. The experts say the organ injuries were caused by the largest shattered bullet fragment, adding that the bullet part was determined by the relative position of all injuries to one another. It described the outcome of the post-mortem examination conducted on the deceased, saying that after the body was wheeled into the mortuary, Mr. Gbenga Rahim, the husband, and we pray for you, sir. We pray for the family. May God continue to hold you with the loss of a beautiful wife with the twins that was expected. I feel very emotional this morning, but many of you are not because you are crazy. You're born bastard because you still want to keep Nigeria that has taken us backwards for 63 years. They cannot provide you the basic things of life, but rather they're taking your life every single day. Continue to say you want Nigeria. You will die and get sucked, just like those that went into the submersible died because they were looking for something that they didn't have to look for. It described the outcome of the post-mortem examination conducted on the deceased, saying that after the body was wheeled into the mortuary, the husband, Mr. Gbenga Rahim, of the deceased and the investigating police officer assigned from the State Criminal Investigating Department were invited to identify the body before his team proceeds to take the height, weight, and the forensic photographs of Bolanle Rahim clothing. He added the body was undressed because life has already been taken away from him, or rather from her. We identified all internal defects and took their photographs. The size of these defects were measured and recorded. Next, we proceeded to the internal examination and various parts were identified and recorded. Remember that ẹ̀mí tó kúrò lára ìyá ẹ̀ ó gbé oyún sínú tí a gbọ́ pé oyún ìbejì ló wà nínú ẹ̀. But olórí burúkú tẹ̀ ń wò yìí ó fi ìbọn ó fi bàtà ayé ẹ̀jẹ̀ láì ṣe táyé àwọn fámìlì yìí. Ọbẹ̀ Elédùmarè kó bá mi wà pẹ̀lú àwọn fámìlì yẹn. It's just too emotional. I'm going to leave that. Let's come to Dr. Chinelo. Kí ló pa òun náà? It was a train attack, according to the family, that eventually gave her a very good burial arrangement. The family of the Nigerian doctor killed by the terrorists have now announced the burial arrangement. Chinelo was not 30 years old. Kódà kò bímọ sáyé, just like Tolulope Awotile. I know many of you are surviving day by day, but I hope that you will not be caught up in the video I showed you yesterday from Linda Ikeji's page, where that young man was beaten. One not titi. Let's listen to that video from this particular message that our sister, one of the sister posted, and we saw it on Linda Ikeji. The guy worked with the Navy, from what we were told. He eventually died because something went wrong and nobody would ask for. Alright, sometimes it's difficult to find things on this page. But if I can't find it, I'll just move on so that it doesn't waste our time, this morning. But we played it yesterday. I just wanted to see if we can listen to it again. Your politicians continue to enjoy life where their children are marrying each other. As many of you continue to think that the future will be bright. The future is no longer bright in Nigeria. The future is now bleak. We're going to leave that because I can't find it. But let's come back here. Chinelo was just 29 years old, a University of Port Harcourt trained dental surgeon. Many of us in this country at some point will visit the dentist because something has gone wrong with our teeth. Many of you will not have the opportunity to have your teeth checked. This was what she was trained for. 29. The future was bright, but the future was taken away from her by the criminal country called Nigeria. I know that many of you just want to watch this program and then you go and do your normal thing. Even to support, you don't. To share, you don't. To like, you don't. Because this is not a gossip platform. But one day, I hope that your family will not have to be used for presentation like this. According to the family of the Nigerian female doctor, Chinelo Magafu, who was killed even though Rotimi Amechi said he told Buhari, the evil bomb bastard, dead or alive, that the route is not secure. There is insecurity on that route, but yet, that route was left open. It was on the March 28th, and please do not listen to all these brown envelope journalists that keep calling them bandits. These are full-blown terrorists. Attacked the Kaduna bomb train in the central Nigeria. It was carrying 970 passengers. Some of them paid a lot of money to be free. But Dr. Chinelo got caught up by a bullet that ripped through. I saw the video and I still have the video in my archive. We cannot show you that video. Just the same way Bolanle Rahim was hit in Lagos that many of you think is safe. She was killed on the train by terrorists after they actually took and blew up the train. Since then, over 10,000 Nigerians have died in the hands of the same people. Thank you so much, Yawa Abosede Rachel. Also, we remember Tolulope Arotile. Tolulope Arotile will be remembered for a reason. She was one of the best first ever helicopter pilot, combat pilot. The family have to witness her being buried. That was not what they wanted. Tolulope was born in 1995. She was just 24 years old, from Okun in Kogi State. She was buried at the National Military Cemetery in Nigeria, where her life ended. Her service of years was from 2012 to 2022. She was just that average Nigerian that believed in Nigeria, but Nigeria never believed in her because Nigeria used Tolulope Arotile as one of those guinea pigs to create what they wanted to create. Today, Tolulope Arotile life was taken by the evil monster that many of you want me to appreciate called Nigeria. Nigeria remains a crime scene, and the crime scene will still be there, even as many of you do not want to admit it. As we pray for Tolulope Arotile's family, the mother, the family, we hope that you will not be one that I will be using as a presentation in the near future. So let's come out of all that after a deep analysis of what Nigeria can do to you. So I'm going to close all that. May their souls rest in peace. Now, let's take you into one of my visits. It's a 5 minute, and I will just allow you to watch it. There's a lot of them that I've produced, scattered all over the social media. You can just type in, just like I did, Slave Museum, Liverpool, OLAYOMI Koiki. It will come back with many of the videos that I was able to literally, because I didn't want me to do any video in there, but I did manage to get one or two out. Many of you might never have seen this before. Continue to believe in one Nigeria. This is how our forefathers were tied. I witnessed this myself. Bọ́ṣe Dewali, àwọn baba ńlá wa, tó fi kó wọn lẹ́rú. They were tied. Some of them died along the line. This is what we are fighting for. This is the reason why we need to take back what belongs to us. Many of you bomb bastard Nigerians are still slaves, and you will remain slaves until you wake up your mind, and I will make sure you wake it up by force. I know they've literally used voodoo, marabot, láti fi de ọpọlọ yín. Tí bàbá ẹ̀ bá mọ̀ pé bó ṣe di bàbá ńlá ẹ̀ lélẹ̀, á ti sọ fún wọn pé ní tí Koiki sọ yẹn kò lọ gbọ́. Let's watch this. You can see that is the Slave Museum. Continue to come and be playing your stupidity on the social media by writing stupid comments. When your forefathers were all tied like these in the time of the slave trade, that Church of England was also involved. And maybe I should just share that into... All right, I'll come back to that. Let's go to another one before I play the next one. Again, this is another angle. These are Nigeria. Did you see that? 1.5 billion crude oil. It never came back to the people. Global inequality. Many of you don't even know the meaning of that. Did you see that? Money stolen from the crude oil. Some of you wants to die for Nigeria, but yet Nigeria will allow you to die easily. And happy Ramadan, Mr. Omolola Adeyemi. And a very good morning, Yami Amdalat. This is a slave museum. Tubalosinobe, you will feel the energy of the people that died during that time. Let's listen to this.
They worship preserve history of 10,000 BC. Our not history, but they might take over what about 200 to preserve it. You preserve history, I preserve history for you. I want to preserve history around now. The early farmers, about 6,000 years ago, in the Neolithic period, people began to farm and cultivate crops.
They had not settled down fully and continued to hunt animals and gather food. The location of their large communion burial memento suggests that these earliest farmers identify with special places in the landscape. It's still KOIKIMEDIA. Bringing the world closer to your doorsteps. (1801) British engineer Richard Trevithick invent a steam locomotive. Locomotive, you're not seeing in Nigeria, they are using locomotive. When I want to say train, but the train is locomotive. 1807, first Jew synagogues opened in Liverpool. 1801, the population Liverpool was 77,000. Ní 1801. Ní 1807, the trade in the enslaved Africans is abolished in Britain and its colonies. Ẹ máa gbọ́, ní 1807, gbogbo ẹrú wọ́n stop ẹ̀, àwa la wá ra tíkẹ́ẹ̀tì nísìnyí, àwa la wá ń bá wọn. Àná àfi gbé ní UK, second class citizen, third class citizen. Èèyàn ní PhD, a máa wá Uber káàkiri gbogbo London. Èèyàn ní masters, wọn ní fún opportunity. So, ta ló wá ń deceive ara wọn? Ní 1807, òun ni ọ̀pọ̀ ẹrú bẹ̀rẹ̀. Ní 1815, Napoleon Empire ends with the Battle of Waterloo. Àní wọ́n ń jà níṣẹ́, tíyàn bá jà, ò lè kúrò ní ọ̀pọ̀ ẹrú, ìjà ní. Ẹ máa jà, ìjà gidi. Ní 1820, Danish scientist Anna Christian Ørsted discovered the magnetic field created by electricity. Àwọn tí níná lẹ́yìn 1820 tó ti discover iná ìtìsí. Now, ní 1825, the world first school for deaf people opens in Liverpool. Ẹni bá jẹ́ deaf person ní Nàìjíríà ó ti jẹ gbèsè. In 19th century, the rapid growth in population, crowded housing, the lack of fresh water, clean air, untreated sewage, all combined to make Liverpool a very unhealthy place. Liverpool, yani gbogbo wa fi wá báyìí nísìn, àwọn Nigerians tó ń gbé ní Liverpool bá ṣe ń sọ̀rọ̀ lọ́wọ́ báyìí. In 19th century, àwọn náà ní problem pẹ̀lú nílé, kò sí fresh air, kò sí toilet. Báwa náà ṣe ní gbogbo ọ̀dọ̀ wa lọ́hùn. But nígbà tó di 1832, a major cholera ó ṣẹlẹ̀ ní ibi báyìí, ó pa èèyàn 1,500. ní 21st century cholera ṣe ń pààyàn nílé. Ní 1832 cholera epidemic kills 1,523 people in Liverpool. But Dr. William Henry Duncan had a medical practice on the Upper Parliament Street where he researched the health of the local population. Nígbà tó di 1845, he joined the Health of Towns Association in Liverpool and campaigned for Liverpool Forced Sanitary Act in 1846. That year, Liverpool had the highest death rate in Britain. In 1847, Duncan was appointed as Liverpool's medical officer of the health for the first such post in the world. 1840, Liverpool Philharmonic Society is founded. 1847, the world's first municipal park opens